Check, check. All right, I'm coming through. Welcome to the second episode of the Alpha Nerd Podcast with me, Kyle. I have a special guest today, Brian Coval. Can you say hello, Brian?
What's up, everybody? This is Brian Coval.
Brian is a extremely accomplished Magic player that I've known for a number of years. I think I met him when I was 21, and he's come a long way. He's got a lot of accomplishments. I'm going to actually ask about some of his history in the game. That way we can establish who he is and what he's about. Go on ahead, Brian. Where did you start Magic?
I started Magic at summer camp in 1990s. That's where I first learned about the game. One of the camp counselors ran an elective that summer called Magic the Card Game. And the session filled before I could choose it. But he was like, sorry you didn't get in. Here's some cards. He just gave me a pile of cards from like Revised and Ice Age and whatever the sets were at the time. And then I just looked at those cards, was mesmerized immediately. And then the next summer of 97, my friends and we were smashing Tempest and Stronghold pre-constructed decks against each other all summer. I was hooked by that time. And that was my entry point.
Nice. I started much later than you. I started in Prophecy is the set that got me going. Why don't you talk about some of your accomplishments and, favorite formats and so on and so forth?
All right. I'll do my best on my resume here. I have won the Star City Games Invitational. I've won Eternal Weekend Vintage Champs. I have 5 Vintage Champs top 8s with 3 finals appearances. Only actually brought home the trophy once. I won a Modern Grand Prix. I have some number of Star City top 8s. I forget between Classics and Opens. It's probably like 7 or 8 of those. And I was a level 2 Magic judge for 13 years. That's a big accomplishment as well. I spent a lot of time, instead of judging at the highest level, I've judged the Pro Tour. And I've played on the Pro Tour 4 times now. And my big thing now, I am a content creator. I run Bosch and Roll on YouTube. And if you like Eternal, non-rotating Magic formats, Vintage, Legacy, Modern, even occasionally Commander or Pauper, that's what I play now. That's my big time sink for Magic right now is that YouTube channel.
Nice. Yeah, I've followed you, and I've known you for a number of years. I've watched you play majority of your events. We just got back from Philadelphia for the Star City Con of 2022, the opening one of the year. I felt it was a really nice event. Went out pretty well. I did pretty well. You did pretty well. How did you feel about the room for the first day on Modern as a whole?
It felt really good. I think Star City did a really great job controlling for COVID conditions, as well as you can do in the current climate. And frankly, I hope that the spaced out tables and fewer people in the room in general, I hope they keep doing that moving forward, even when this pandemic's in the rear view. Because that was comfortable. I've never been so comfortable at a Magic tournament as I was there. That was great.
Yeah, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, I don't have to fight through 60 people just to get to my table spot.
And we're both big dudes. Like, you're a lot bigger than me, and I'm not small. And it was really nice. Like, squeezing into those chairs elbow to elbow the way they normally pack us in there. Just one table, 4 players. That was great. Space between each set of 4 players. Loved it.
Whoever decided that is a genius.
Yeah, I was talking to the events, and I mentioned it, and they were like, you are far from the first person to suggest we keep doing this moving forward, and it is something that is on our radar. So, fingers crossed.
Right. I enjoyed the room. I think Modern right now is in a really good spot. And if you're not sure what Modern is the new format that replaced Legacy for a lot of stuff. And it actually replaced Extended, which was the current sets down to the previous 6 sets. It's now from when they changed the borders of cards in Mirrodin all the way up till current. Right now, I feel like is a very diverse format for it. I don't know if you agree or not, Brian.
Yeah, I think Modern is really awesome right now. Between Modern Horizons 2 and the whole years of sets really pumped a lot of power and a lot of interesting, not just power, but there's a lot of different types of deck play, very different strategies you can employ, and all of them are viable in tournaments. Really exciting time to play Modern.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I did well. I went 7-2, top 32'd. What did you go for Modern? Did you 7-2 as well?
I went 6-3. My last opponent and I at 6-2, or at 6-2. We could have intentionally drawn into the money, but I'm a no splits kill 'em all kind of player, so I lose then draw into cash. So we played for the top 18. I ended up 37th, and top 32 got paid. My opponent was in the top 18.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it was a good time. Day 2 was Legacy, and that's where you definitely rule the house there on information and feel. So I'm going to let you talk about how you feel about how Legacy is now that they banned Ragavan and Wrenn and 6.
The Wrenn and 6 ban is ancient history at this point. They've banned multiple cards since Wrenn and 6. Dreadhorde Arcanist, Oko, Thief of Crowns. Lots of cards have left the format since Wrenn. Ragavan Nimble Pillar is the most recent ban, and that one that took the boot off the format's neck, kind of. Like, Ragavan was really oppressive to the format and limited what kind of decks could be played. I think that the immediate pressure is off the format, and there's something a lot more healthy going on. I still think they could shave more off, make it a little more healthy. I think expressive iteration is still good for the format, but it's much better than it was with Ragavan.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to play Legacy in forever, and then this was the first attempt, and it felt really good to just sit there and be able to play Force of Wills, and then on top of it, getting to play pretty much the same deck you were playing, which was the 4-color control deck, and it felt like everything was where it needed to be. It wasn't degenerate, because last time I played, Oko was still in the format. This is right after Oko came out, and it felt really one-sided all the way around for just power levels.
Yeah, Legacy's much more healthy than that. Everyone's going to get to play the game for the most part, and you messaged me for the deck, and we ended up on basically the same deck, like at least 73 of the same 75 cards. And I really like the positioning of that 4-color control deck. Every card I put in there for a reason, and there's equals for everything.
Oh my god, I felt so like I thought Witherbloom Command was like really weird until I actually had the situations where I played it, and then I'm like, oh my god, this card is amazing. It does everything.
Yeah, it turns out that a bad removal spell and a bad Life from the Loam and a bad burn spell and a bad upgrade, like, all 4 of those effects are bad, but you get 2 at a time, and whichever ones you need. And, like, 2 kind of bad versions of good cards add a card most of the time.
Yeah, oh my god. I killed so many people with the drain effect. Or kept myself alive with the drain effect.
I think I didn't, but it was very cool when I did it.
Like, one of my biggest matchups was against Michael Mathis. And I lost that match because we went into game 2 at less than 10 minutes in the round. But playing the deck, I realized halfway through about what mistakes I made when I made them, and I feel like game 1 would have been a whole lot different if I would have made those mistakes. So it shows that the deck's still really powerful, but I was a little rusty on some of my plays there.
Yeah, the deck gives you a lot of accountability, which I enjoy. I know some don't. Some players just want to swing for the fences with raw power, and if they get unlucky, they like to blame luck for their losses, but I'm not one of those. I want to be accountable. Like, okay, I lost because I made this mistake on turn 4 that ended up biting me on turn 8. Like, I want to see those lines. I want to know what I did wrong, and I want to fix it for next time.
Yes, and that's exactly how I felt. I wasn't just. I mean, I ended the day at 5-3, and I felt really good about everything. I realized that everything that went wrong was nothing wrong with deck construction. It was nothing wrong with the cards. It was just minor mistakes that I know I can fix if I get to play more Legacy. And speaking of which, I'm super happy that Star City's starting to go back to Legacy.
That's so good. I think all of their events. There's one team event in Indy coming up. I don't actually know the format. They only announced Philly, Indy, and Dallas so far, but at least 2 of the stops feature Legacy heavily. And that's really great for the format and really great for Star City to stand up and take that risk on the format that people love.
Yeah, I mean, I was really disappointed when they're like, we're abandoning Legacy for Pioneer. Like, I'm not bashing Pioneer as a format, but I didn't like it. I don't like how it feels. And then with everything, how they were doing the banned list and let certain decks just go crazy and never put them in check, just kind of ruined it for me and ruined the format as a whole.
Yeah, I thought Pioneer was really cool, and there was a lot of volatility in the early days because rather than, like when Modern was invented, they just gave us a long ban list of these cards are probably too good for the format, let's just try it without them. Pioneer, almost nothing was banned. They just let us go every week. It's like, okay, break something this week, and then we'll remove it for next week. Then we'll peel off the next thing until it's healthy. And that was a cool way to invent a format, but it was really hard to buy in as just like a normal player who needs to basically buy a new deck every week because they banned last week's deck every week. That would have been a really tough time to try to keep up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. What bothered me most is they just didn't do anything about the combo deck, the Thassa's Oracle.
The inverter deck.
Yeah, the inverter, that's it. I couldn't think of the name. I knew the card had a void. Yeah, that's I think what ruined that format is they sat there and were so worried about everything else that they just let that become so degenerate and overpowered.
Yeah, they did kind of a thing. It was kind of the same thing they did with Ragavan, who they left legal and legacy for way longer than was really acceptable. And looking at a purely data-driven approach, the win rates of Dimir Inverter and Pioneer and the win rates of Izzet Delver and Legacy never crossed whatever their threshold is to ban cards. It was just the intangible misery of playing against it from opponents. And that's something that if you're not really on the ground knowing exactly how that feels and what people are saying about it, just looking at raw numbers, you're going to come to a different conclusion than the correct one.
Fair enough. Oh, man, Saturday, that we're going to get off a little topic off the Magic for a second. The place I suggested for food. Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, Cynthia's Soul Food Grill.
Yes, I'm going to tag them all up after this on our social media, just so they have their shout outs. Such good food, so well prepared, so good.
I'm pretty sure I have Yelp and that I've only left 2 reviews in the last 10 years since I downloaded the app, but I'm going to make sure to give them a 5-star. I'll reset my password or whatever I got to do to get in there to make sure people know that place is awesome.
Yeah, it was so good. Day one, I'm gonna scroll back to day one just because my ADD's allowing me to. The biggest problem I felt with that whole weekend was day one, the Modern event, on how much problems there was getting it off the ground.
Oh yeah, that was really unfortunate. So if people don't know what's going on with that, Wizards of the Coast, they rolled out what's called the Companion app, which is a really nice app on your phone for running Magic tournaments in local stores. However, that software is completely incapable of doing what a large event needs done. Like, if there's a mistake, like you get paired for your round and you realize you have 6 points, but you're supposed to have 9, and you go up to the scorekeeper and hey, my points are backwards. In the old event reporting software, they could just say, oh, my mistake, and move two matches around and pair you against who you should be. They just like pull your opponent from last round out of their match. You two switch places, off you go. But now they have to repair the entire tournament. There is no way to rebuild or just fiddle with the structure of the tournament other than pair the round, enter the results in companion app, which is, you can't just repair 400 people. There's a little mistake. Yeah. So Star City tried to run it through MTG Melee, which has another set of problems.
Yeah,
MTG Melee was great throughout the COVID quarantine. They were the company that really stepped up and said, we can run online events. We can do this. We have the software to do this. 2 of the 4 Pro Tours I played in were run through MTG Melee, and it went really well. But anytime I've seen a large event run it in paper, there have been problems. And I'm not a tech person. I can't explain that. But it's unreliable for paper play. And then Star City, while they were trying to fix that problem, the internet in the casino cut out. Like the internet that they paid for, like we were renting this room for the weekend. We need hardwire internet. No mistakes, like pay extra for this service. It just died through no fault of theirs. And then they had to audible from whatever their backup plan is to plan 3, which was just run it on paper, like the olden days.
Yeah.
And frankly, for that cascade of issues that they ran into, they really ran that thing. A less capable tournament organizer, we might not have had a tournament until 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yes. It like the biggest things I had were they didn't make it very clear that you absolutely had to submit a deck list online. And I apparently am not the only one who noticed that, because I got there and they said that. Not only did my whole car do it, there was a line of people. There was at least 60 people that were all saying the same thing, that they had to submit a deck list last second. And I feel like Star City kind of dropped the ball and, should have said, absolutely, you have to submit an online deck list to help run the event. Because they left it vague in their registration.
Yeah, I can see that being confusing. I've been playing digital events through MTG Melee for the last 2 years now, and I'm just used to that whole system. Even if I could have submitted a paper list, I wouldn't, because sending it in virtually is so much easier. I can see how, if you haven't really been in touch with that system for the last 2 years, how that would blindside you.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing on there, and I didn't even realize it, and I was playing a couple things on Melee. It just kind of threw me off there for a second. It threw a lot of people off. Surprisingly, other than that, I think that was the biggest issue. Saturday was the issue day. And then when we came in Sunday, they had it all ready to go, every angle covered.
Yeah, everything was much smoother on Sunday. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any notable matchups that you had that you can think of for that day?
On Sunday?
Saturday or Sunday. Does whatever you feel like you were like, oh, this was the matchup.
I think on Sunday, a lot of really cool stuff. I was able to, for Modern, I'm aware of the format. I'm in touch with it. I play it for my YouTube, but I'm really dialed in on Legacy, and Modern is just second tier for me. So Modern, I just sort of copied somebody's deck and did my best with. Some interesting things happened, but mostly I was just on autopilot and learning the deck. But on Sunday, when I was in the zone, I was in the matrix, all of my opponents were just green 0s and 1s. They weren't even people. I was just reading the matrix, and I was the feature match on Sky Warfield's stream, the Mythic Meebo stream. They were doing guerrilla coverage, backpack coverage, setting up a tripod with their phone and beaming it to Twitch. And I was featured on the channel 3 times in the 9 rounds. And all of those matchups were really interesting, really exciting. And I got to do cool things in them. I got to do a little bit of Hollywooding an opponent, where just, pretending I was dead, looking miserable, just sort of had my hand face down, had my forehead leaning into my hand, just looking miserable against the Storm opponent while they were comboing out. And at the end of the storm chain, they had 9 storm, but not 10. And I saw them thinking maybe I should get Empty the Warrens instead of Tendrils of Agony. And I just like said to them, like kind of dejectedly, like, I fetched twice, I'm at 18. Like, oh, okay, good, I'll Tendrils you. But I had Veil of Summer, where if they just made Goblin tokens with Empty the Warrens, I was 1,000% dead. But I just sort of, sold it, which I miss doing for the last 2 years playing online. You don't get to do that little dramatic, the posturing,
you don't get
miserable, pretending you have nothing, helping them find the wrong line gently, like that felt really good.
Yeah, not getting to play the player, like that's always a big aspect to anything. Like, yeah, you can know all the mechanics, all that stuff, but having a person across from you and be able to see how they act and be able to give up their tells is always one of my favorite things when it comes to this game.
Yeah, that's a plus and a minus. I guess one notable thing that happened was my first match on Saturday in the Modern Tournament. Like, first major tournament event in 2 years. First match, round 1. Mine was just miserable. Like, friend accused me of slow rolling him when I cast my removal spell on the last turn. It was like attacking with his last creature, and I used a fetch land, got my land out of the deck, cast a removal spell, and he was just like, oh, nice slow roll, man. You could have just showed me the removal spell. It's like, bro, we've been in our house for 2 years. You're going to show up and be miserable first thing in the morning? Come on now.
Yeah.
So, like, there's something I miss about Paper Magic and other things I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. My first round of Legacy was rough because we were running into deck list issue problems because my hotel didn't have the greatest internet, so I couldn't get it submitted on there. And then by the time we were most of the way submitted it, they're like, "Well, we're starting round 1 immediately." Like, no time wasted. There was like 5 other people that have to, so I had to make my deck list after the round 1, but I had to show what I was playing ahead of time, the judge. And sitting around that, my opponent was extremely patient with me backpedaling, and then when I played him, like he was just so good natured about it. He was so about just getting to play, and I got that experience a lot. My biggest match for this was Michael Mathis. I had no idea who he was, and then after I played him, everyone's like, he's a pretty high end player. I was like, okay. But he was super enjoyable to be around. That was the match I got. I got the feature match for that. I don't remember who that was doing that. They kind of were like, "Hey, do you want to be a feature match? Here you go. Here's my camera. I'm just gonna set it here. Bye," and kind of walked away. So we had the room to play, so they weren't crowding us, which was really polite. That was the match that I really felt I made a couple critical errors that if I would have played it differently, I might have skated by that, at least with the draw.
Yeah, and you probably did. Like I said, yeah, we were playing the same deck. If you feel like you missed something, you probably did, and it's really great that you're able to notice that and grow as a player rather than just say like, oh, got unlucky or ran bad or whatever. Like really finding those spots and improving as a player is important.
Yeah, I mean, I was so ecstatic to get to play a big event after these couple years of playing on Moto, which is not bad, but it's just the 25-minute round cap thing. No matter what, you lose if you hit the cap thing. It's annoyed the crap out of me because I've played decks that you have suggested for me before, like control decks that have a lot of answers, but they like to go to close to time a lot and. Clicking through everything, I make mistakes, and it cost me a couple games on the win. Like, I was ahead, and then time ran up.
Yeah, I've gotten very used to the chess clock on Magic Online compared to the round clock in Paper, where, yeah, I do like these big, slow control decks that take their time to win, but when I have a chess clock, that's on me. Like, I click fast, I make fast decisions, and I'm going to use a lot of my time, but there's way to when you have the shared round clock, if you have a slow deck, but your opponent's just sort of farting around over there at a leisurely pace or taking lots of time, that's your club. And I didn't draw any matches this weekend because my opponent was slow, but I did come close once.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I almost had that draw against Michael Mathis because it was just... And I believe maybe I might have been the one slow playing just because I started getting in my own head trying to think about all the different routes the deck could take and what was the right route, what was the wrong route. And I think, as I said, I could go back and see the two decisions I think I made that really cost me game one most of all, which was letting his Knight of Reliquary get to the ability to tap and sack mana, and also letting, instead of picking up the Jace the Mind Sculptor off the Narset, letting it down for having another Swords of Plowshare to take down the Dark Depths.
Right, yeah. Yeah, those spots are tough.
Because if I would have chose that, I would have been able to draw him into Oblivion with just the Brainstorm effect.
Yeah, knowing when it's time to put the shields down and time to start winning is one of the essential skills in a deck like that.
I mean, I'm all for this deck now. I have it 99% done. I'm missing 2 cards out of it, but my buddy has them for me to use whenever I need to. So that puts me in a good spot to be able to play Legacy more often. With how good this format felt, and then my first top 32 ever for a Star City event, I felt really good about the deck I was playing. I felt really good about 4-color Blink. It's such a... I was 4-coloring all weekend, but I like 4-color Blink as a deck now that I'm more used to it. It's such an over-the-top deck and hard to answer.
Yeah, that deck is really powerful. My first loss of the Modern Tournament was to 4-color Blink, and that person ended up winning the tournament. Just didn't lose all day. Beat me and kept the train rolling.
Yeah, he did. Ivan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He seemed really cool. I heard him talking for a little bit. He didn't seem very, high up himself. He seemed very kind of mellow.
Yeah. Was a very cool dude. Apparently he went to school in Carlisle in Central PA, but lives in Southern California now, and made the trip out just for this Philly event. See some of his old friends and stuff, but mostly to play Magic. Came across the whole country. Make it happen.
Oh, man. I mean, I enjoyed it. As soon as I got there, I got to see all the people from Syracuse that I haven't seen forever. I got to see you, Caffrey, people I have not talked to in years in the Legacy scene. I don't...
Yeah, seeing the people is great. And then I've been active. I've been doing guest spots on other people's Twitch streams. I've been doing podcasts and just hanging out on Twitter in general. And I've met so many people over the quarantine that it felt really weird that I was meeting them for the first time in person. Shout out to Pokemoki and Rebel, just a couple people like that. Zach Allen, who I knew a little bit before the pandemic, but we never worked together before. And just approaching these people and Pokemoki, he sat down next to me. We were talking a little bit, and I had no idea who he was. But we've been, working together on Magic decks for the last 2 years. I've just never seen him in person, and it was just there was this weird little dance of you're talking to me like you know me. Reveal yourself. Who are you? It's oh, I'm Pokemoki. It's oh my god, hi, great to meet you in person. I had that moment so many times throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, getting to talk to you, just watch so many people come up hi, I'm one of your Patreon subscribers. I was wow, I'm really standing next to a celebrity right now.
That's been kind of weird to get used to because, I started Twitch streaming in 2018, late 2018, I think, and it started slow, as it always does, and then I pivoted from Twitch streaming over to YouTube, 6 or 8 months later. Twitch streaming really wasn't for me. I like the pre-recorded stuff a lot more. And then the pandemic hit, and I just quietly kept plugging away at my content effort, like getting better at it, releasing more and more. That was kind of like my quarantine therapy. It's like, I'm stuck in the house, I got to do something. And I just poured myself into the YouTube stuff. And I can see how many people click on my video. I can see like my ad revenue and all those analytic stuff, but I wasn't talking to people for those 2 years. And now I'm starting to emerge in these public spaces now that starting to open back up. And just the people who approach me is like, holy guacamole. I had no idea. I had 4 different people this weekend approach me and say, I'm at this tournament because I watched you play Legacy and it convinced me to play Legacy. I had never played Legacy pre-pandemic, but your content is the reason I'm here. Or meeting Patreon subscribers, or just the guy who won the Legacy tournament credited me with his win. He was like, I watch Brian Coval's channel all the time. I knew everything I needed to do against all my matchups. Shout out to Brian Coval. That was literally his winner's interview. He didn't say anything other than shout me out. And it's like very strange because there was no gradual growth to that. It was just some people know me and then tons of people know me, kind of like at the flick of a switch.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it was just really weird, like hanging out with you and then just seeing like people fanboying over you. I'm like, and then like I said, I keep forgetting that you're a lot more big time than most Magic players I know. Most of my local guys, most of them, like. And what cracks me up is like I've never viewed you that way. You were just the guy who showed up, was always super quiet. That was just super good and just trounced me every time I played him.
Yeah, I also don't feel that way either. Like, people Magic Pro, which I don't believe that I am. Like, look at, but keeping perspective, that sort of thing is really important. Like, to me, Magic Pro is a member of the Hall of Fame, a member of the Magic Pro League. There's literally defines of what a Magic Pro is, and I'm nowhere near any of them. But as far as someone who is entrenched in Magic, makes content, it is a significant source of income for me. I guess in that range, I am totally a Magic Pro, but I'm really calling myself a Magic Pro. But that is how a lot of people see me at this point. And I'm coming to terms with that all the time.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to more Star City cons this year. I'm really hoping they bring some more back to the East Coast. I would be really sad if we just kept it all in Indianapolis and like 10 hours away. I'm hoping we get one for Baltimore, which is usually one of Star City's biggest ones they do.
Yeah, Star City is an East Coast organization. We are not going to be forgotten. It's always been the opposite. It's been people everywhere else on the planet saying like, wow, Star City really favors the East Coast. I wish we could have something like that. So I wouldn't worry about it.
I'm not. And now I'm just waiting for the new set to drop and see what's going on with that. And like with how much Modern might or might not change with the new set, how much Legacy might change with the new set. I feel like overall, I think Legacy is going to get the biggest change with the channel lands, just to be able to have that much more interaction with the graveyard and everything else.
Yeah, it's like a weird thing. Like you saying, like waiting for the new set to drop just now, I had to remind myself that Magic Online and Arena have had the set for a week and a half already, and it's not even out in paper yet, which is just a fact of reality, I guess. That's just how the release schedule works. But I've been playing with the new cards already. I've been seeing tournament results with the new cards already, and there's some cool stuff going on. I haven't seen the new Boseiju really break anything yet. I think that is mostly just an Assassin's Trophy, and that card is unplayable. But, I mean, it's better than Trophy, but, I'm not going to do a set review right now. I think that card is less crazy than people think it is. I've been having a ton of fun with all the new ninjas. I've recorded Legacy, Pauper, and Modern with the new ninjas already. I got to ninjutsu in a Blightsteel Colossus on someone with the new Umazawa, who gives every creature in your hand ninjutsu.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've been having fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just dropped one of your videos today on Legacy, I think, the ninja stuff.
Yeah, I released a blue-black Tezzerator artifact prison deck with Grindstone, and there's a new ninja that puts artifacts into play when it hits your opponent. And
God.
Attacking with a Baleful Strix, ninjutsu in the creature that puts an artifact in, it hits, and you put the Strix back in and draw a card.
Yeah,
it's pretty sweet. Or you sneak your Grindstone under your own Chalice of the Void on one. It was just a fun little brew. I don't think it's broken or anything, but it was a new card showcased.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at the Beseiju really hard just because I play green a lot. I've also been looking at the blue and red one because I feel like they're both very underappreciated for what they do. I haven't seen, like I said, I've been watching around. I haven't seen anything that's been broken because of Beseiju, but I know there's going to always be those group of people that are going to lean real hard into it with like a 4-of with a Leonin Arbiter in play, trying to create a soft lock.
Yeah.
And I don't know how good that's actually going to be. All the doom and gloom that Ren and 6 is going to get banned over this card. I don't foresee it.
I don't see any of that.
Unless there's something that, everybody's missing. Like you said, I don't see it either. It's good. It's just not that good.
Right, exactly. And ultimately, from a design standpoint, Beseiju is a backstop against nonsense. If an uncounterable disenchant effect is ruining your deck, then you were up to no good, and you deserve to have your deck ruined. I'm not trying to poo-poo on anyone's deck or yuck anyone's yum. I'm just saying, if your whole deck is built to, cheat in some enchantment, like Omniscience or like that, or Blood Moon, if you're a turn 1 Blood Moon deck, and you just cannot beat an uncounterable disenchant effect, you're up to no good. The format should have answers to people who are up to no good. And I don't think it's going to just eliminate any decks, but it's just a tool that people can have against opponents who are up to no good. And I'm okay with that. It's another answer to Tron. It destroys non-basic lands. Tron players are up to no good. It's an answer to Amulet. Amulet players are up to no good. All of these decks have the same thing in common, and it's trying to do something degenerate. Nobody who's just hitting their land drops and playing spells and attacking with creatures is going to lose to a Beseiju.
Fair enough. And I guess my thing is I deal with a lot of younger players now. They haven't played through the dark times that you and I've played through. You've played for a couple more darker times than me. The whole oh my god.
Combo win.
What's up?
The whole combo winter, or is the saga block?
Yeah. And then I was thinking more recent, the Dark Steel Skull Clamp shenanigans.
Oh, the Affinity, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad time. I came in, I was playing during that time, but I wasn't in the competitive scene, but I just remember just seeing all kinds of people complaining about it. The dark times I lived through was mental misstep.
I had the opposite experience. I was kind of taking, a soft break from Magic. I never stopped collecting or playing, but I wasn't really chasing it. When Yu-Gi-Oh! Was released in America, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For the first couple of years it was around. And that was about when the Mirrodin Skullclamp Affinity deck was in Standard. And I remember seeing some Magic players in the store just going nuts with Affinity. And I was like, what is that? I need to be part of it. And then I got back into competitive Magic because of how busted and crazy that was, while a lot of people were quitting Magic because of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what sparked my interest. I had most of that deck when I first was playing. I was, oh my god, 13, maybe 14 when all that was going on. And I just...
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I just remember it, and I'm just like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. Because I felt
playing your whole hand on turn 1 is a little kid's dream. Like, here's all my cards, let's go.
Yeah, and I felt like I'm part of the big kids club because I can play all these cards all at once too and stare at my opponent and laugh at them.
Absolutely.
That was a dark time I didn't get to be a part of really because I wasn't in the competitive scene yet. The one that I started with that I can remember the most darkest about is the whole mental misstep. That was such a bad time.
Yeah, somehow it turned out to be a bad idea to give literally a single free counterspell that they could play 4 of.
Yeah, oh my god. Every deck had 4 of them. Everybody's life points started at 16 or 15, depending if they had a fetch or not.
Yep, crazy. That was not a good time for Legacy, but they figured it out quick. There was like one Grand Prix where Mental Mystical, and then they banned it. Didn't mess up the format for too long.
Yeah, and I played in that Grand Prix. It was awful.
Yeah, I played in that Grand Prix as well. On Elves at the time, but Mental Misstep shredded the Elf chain, and I top 64'd that Grand Prix. That was my first pro-level money finish, my first pro point in the old pro point system.
Oh, yeah.
I had fun there.
I remember that because I was watching you on day 2. I was watching you and... Because I scrubbed out on day 1 because I was playing Super Friends at the time.
Yep. Yeah, the old Simic food chain. Fair and square, like evoking Muldrifter and then feeding it to the food chain, draw 2 cards, get 3 mana, cast Emrakul. That was a goofy deck, the Doug McKay special. Shout out to Doug McKay.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him in a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, evil genius, and that deck was awesome. I had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, and like I said, I do a lot of... They don't remember any of this. They weren't never part of this, so they just like act like everything new that's good right now is like doom and gloom, the end of Magic. Like, they don't remember the whole Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise era. That was also a rough go.
Yeah, playing since 1996, I can tell you I've probably witnessed the air quotes death of Magic 20 times. Just like a rule set change or like the different card frame, introducing foils, introducing alternate arts, Pro Tour structure changes to the pro level club, invention of Commander, management of the Commander ban list, just whatever. Like, everyone always thinks any change is going to kill Magic, but Wizards of the Coast made $1 billion last year, literally with a B, $1 billion. It was their best year ever. Magic is not dying.
Not anytime soon.
No.
I feel like they're kind of hurting standard right now with how some things have been printing. But
yeah, I mean, Standard and Arena, or mostly Arena. Like, Arena is just has so many problems with it that I don't know. There's so much potential in Magic Arena. It's a beautiful program. It's a great way to play Magic, but their economy is really bad. They're trying to make it look like a free-to-play game, like Hearthstone, where you can like grind up a collection or whatever without spending money. And it's really not that. Not even close. Their economy is really stingy on there, the free-to-play economy. Even if you put money in, it's really hard to get the cards you want. If they don't make some big fix to that, they're squandering a really great platform there.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying when I first started playing. I was like, this is beautiful. It plays well. It's nice. It's smooth. It's not clunky. And I was like, and then when they started getting into later stuff is when I felt it started going down. Like, I don't like the Alchemy and the Historic Masters thing. I did not like those. Like, I'm playing decks that have them in there, but I still don't like how it feels. Like, they just modified Teferi Time Raveler to make it playable in Arena, and I feel like that was just to pander so people would get interest back in it.
Yeah, like, ironically, I wish I could play Alchemy version of Teferi in EDH. Like, I prefer that version. It's actually better in my deck, even though it's worse overall. So there's like some silly stuff going on like that. But I don't mind Arena having a very different thing that can only exist on Arena. Like some of the alchemy stuff, like conjuring cards and seeking cards, like that sort of stuff that literally can't happen with physical objects. I like that they're exploring that space, but I do think that not having Arena be a true to paper thing, like there's no pipeline other than I like Magic, therefore I'll explore the other type of ways to do it. But if there was a real like Pioneer format supported on Arena, then people would start building Pioneer decks in paper that they can practice now. And now there's no standard tournaments. You can play draft, standard, and historic on Arena. That's it. And only one of those could you build in real life if you wanted to. And there's nowhere to play it. So it's just sort of wallowing over there.
Yeah, and between the two, like they're both killing each other off. Like, I feel like having the easy access to play standard for essentially free doesn't motivate people to buy standard product and play standard. And then it works vice versa as well, because now you have these overpowered cards and like that work in standard and stuff, or that with how the game functions with like the new alchemy thing. Like now you got players complaining because they don't like the actual cards because the alchemy cards they feel are better. Like they're stabbing each other trying to prevail.
Yeah, I like the cards were printed directly into alchemy on purpose that don't exist in real life. The nerfing and changing printed Magic cards, but only for one format, is kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's a weird time. I'm trying to think of anything else that was interesting that happened at that event or has been interesting in like Magic as a whole. With what they're doing with like the block thing, like do you think they should go back to blocks? Do you think we should stay away from blocks? Like,
so there's two parts of that. Like, for format purposes, I really like that every set is just one set. There have been very few draft formats in history that got better when you added a second and third set to them. Like, really getting to craft your limited world out of a single set was a great exercise for design. You lose the lore. Like, you don't get to spend a year in a world anymore. You spend 3 months in a world, and sometimes 2 if they're just blasting off new sets every 6 weeks. And like Kaldheim was an incredible world. They put so much world building into that. They had like 10 different guilds is the wrong word, but 10 different like godly pantheons or whatever the word was, and they all had names. Like, I couldn't even name 2 of them right now. But did you even know that Kaldheim had like a giant guild and like an earth dryad guild and like in all the 10 pairs, just like Ravnica? Did you even know they did that?
No, not particularly. I knew there was some aspects because like I wanted to play giants for a while because I thought it was interesting, but it was just so, because it was so fast, so quick. Like you said, like we didn't get to spend the time in there and really get in touch with the sets.
Yeah, and absolutely beautiful, built-out world, this massive pantheon of gods, all these different factions, 10 different factions, every color pair represented. They all had names, they all had backstories, and it was just like, okay, on to the next one. And it was just gone. And that was just such a cool place that didn't get to flourish. I would have loved to spend 9 months there over 3 sets.
Yeah, like some of the sets just feel like they were half done, like they were halfway done, and there should have been a supplemental set with it to help expand it. Like Theros, when we revisited Theros, I felt like there was going to be way more to that. Like there should have been way more to it. Like it just felt like most of a set and not the rest of it.
Yeah, I can see that. Like there were some like trying to contain the stories in a single set, like the saga cards and the planeswalker cards where like Theros, for example, had Elspeth the planeswalker who had escaped, and like Elspeth died last time we were on Theros in the story, and in this version of the story she's escaping the underworld and she's back to life, and they printed a planeswalker card with the escape mechanic so it can keep coming back from the graveyard. And then in the same set there was a saga called Elspeth Conquers Death, which tried to tell the story of Elspeth conquering death. And they just sort of like, some of it is really elegant and pretty, and other times it's like, oh, wait, what's going on? Can we spend some more time about that?
Like what
are all these little hints?
Right, the one that got me was like Croxa and Oro, like because
Right.
I got super excited when they first introduced
the 2-card set.
You're right. I got super excited because I like Greek mythology, and the thing I like about Greek mythology is the Titans. And there was a lot more than just 2 Titans, and it felt like we were going to get more Elder Giants in different color schemes to help balance the 2 out, but we never did. They just took the 2 best ones and threw them in there and said, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Like, I believe there were 12 Titans in Greek mythology.
Yes.
And that's a lot of mythic rares to put into a Magic set. But if we had 3 sets to explore them, that would have been pretty cool. Like, I kind of like the elegance of Croxa and Earth being opposites of each other. Like, the blue-green one draws a card and gains 3 life. The red-black one discards a card and loses 3 life. I like the sort of yin and yang there, but it definitely did feel incomplete. Like, there could have been more of that sort of thing. Like, and if we had a 3-set block, there would have been more of them, for sure.
Even if we just in the one set, if we at least got 2 or 3 more to help try to, like, balance them out to make all the colors playable. Like a blue-white one and a white-black one and a green-white one. Something. It just felt like they let a lot of potential go there, and just that's what kind of helped hurt the format at the time.
Yeah. I could see that.
And then Oko happened.
Yeah, that was an adventure. We had sort of a mini Urza Saga happen, where, for any of the young people listening, Urza Saga was just insanely powerful set, surrounded by insanely weak sets, and you just had cards that were going nuts and just had nothing that could really check them or interact with them, and this one block, the Urza block, just ruined everything it touched for like 4 or 5 years, like its entire time in Standard. And Throne of Eldraine and War of the Spark kind of did a similar thing, especially Throne of Eldraine. I remember the spoiler season where I was like, oh, that's a card? That's going to be a mistake. Oh, they did that too? Wow. No way that's reasonable. And they banned so many cards out of Throne of Eldraine across so many formats.
Right. And like I would love to stay in Eldraine longer. I felt like that needed more expanding, because I feel like you could have so many more adventures, so many more references to old fairy tales, and it would have worked so well.
Yeah, that's the place that is worth revisiting. But like the current system, you get to revisit rather than sort of follow in a place, which I guess is a pro for our pros and cons list we're making. Like, sometimes by the end of the 9 months, you're like, okay, I have had enough Ravnica or whatever. Like, I get it. When Lorwyn and Morningtide were the blocks, that was like a 4-block set. It was a big set, small set, big set. We spent literally a year in Lorwyn, and at some point it was like, okay, my goodness, I've seen enough Kithkin. Yeah. So there is like a give and take there, and I think that they will end up doing what's right for Magic. I do actually have a lot of faith in the people who make Magic, even in like the recent run of some big misses.
Yeah, like Strixhaven I was really happy with, but I felt like that needed a supplemental set. Because they introduced like the evil sorcerer guy and like their version of Voldemort from Harry Potter. Like, And I was like, we need to establish more things about these people. And now I have to wait forever how many years until we actually get to go back there and play with the set.
Yeah, that one might have been a strategic limit, because at some point J.K. Rowling just sues them if they flesh out that story too much. Get a cease and desist from the Harry Potter people.
Fair enough. And that'd be interesting, though. That'd be a really sweet lawsuit to follow.
I guess. If you're into that sort of thing. I'm not. Let's skip the drama. Let's just play our Magic cards.
Yeah, that's true. But there's just sometimes some of it's just really interesting to watch.
Right.
To see people argue back and forth on what's okay, what's not okay. But
I'm pretty sure Harry Potter has more money than Matt to fight that, though it would be a Clash of Titans. A regular Ura versus Cruxa.
Exactly. So, I mean, wherever we're going, we're revisiting Kamigawa into a new, like, techno samurai thing, and it doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel like the first one. But
yeah, I think that Neon Dynasty has the potential to be an all-timer. Like, I haven't drafted it yet. I don't know what the limited format looks like, but just the cards that are in this set for Constructed seem incredible and in interesting ways. Not like Throne of Eldraine incredible, where it's just obviously ridiculously powerful. There's just really interesting stuff. Alex Altman, who writes about Pauper, called this set Pauper Horizons. If like, you can't make a set specifically for Pauper with nothing but commons in it, but this set on the Eternal Glory podcast, which is a podcast I co-host, we talked about, I think, 14 Pauper cards that came out of the set, and we just picked the best ones. There's still more. It's kind of a bonkers set.
Yeah, there's a lot for Pauper. I was looking into it. I've never actually gotten into the Pauper scene, but I follow it once in a while. Actually, you're the reason why I follow it, because, you know, you play some interesting decks. It's interesting to watch. But it just seemed like this was the Pauper set. Like you said, people were probably hyping up the channel lands a little too much, but overall I don't think it's going to kill a format.
Yeah, they're just solid role players, solid backstops, good stuff.
The parts that interested me was we're getting back to Phyrexia stuff.
Yeah, they've been creeping around. There was a Phyrexian in Kaldheim, and there's two Phyrexians in Kamigawa now. They're sort of creeping around. They're making their way back.
That's going to be awesome, especially if they can keep it as balanced and not create mental misstep.
I think they've learned their lesson from that.
I mean, they didn't learn their lesson when they made Oko. Like, they should have. They didn't create anything to balance him out.
Yeah, there was nothing that could balance him out except printing a different card.
Exactly. But, all right, Coval, it's about my hour's up, and I'm really glad that you came on and sat and talked with me and enjoyed just shooting the breeze with you and talking about different things that involve Magic.
Yeah, this was fun. I have never been on the actual radio before. This was a new experience for someone who I feel like I've done it all at this point. It was fun to be on the radio.
Yeah, no problem. Have you again one of these times in a couple months, maybe when, you know, some interesting development happens. You know,
yep, we can loop back around.
All right, man. You have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. This is gonna be the end of the Alpha Nerd Podcast Hour. We'll see you next Thursday.